What does our driving behavior say about us as Arabs? Is it any different than any other developing countries where a simple drive across town can wreak havoc on your nervous system? Say like in India or other Asian countries. For sure, many in sub-Saharan Africa. Whenever I drive in my country, I keep getting this nagging thought. Are driving attitudes and instincts a direct reflection of a society's ethical, moral, and humane balance? Now, as I'm having this thought, I'm having to swerve away from a driver of a huge SUV who's weaving fast and furious in between several cars in the left lanes alongside me, in the effort, I guess, to make it to the off-ramp all the way on the far right. He makes it, barely. What makes us all suffer for it? On Arab roads, like anywhere else, there are rules and guidelines, fairly clear-cut. At the same time, there are assumptions and conclusions that are not as clear but grayer within that decision-making space. This is where complication starts. And then there are the manners and attitudes of the people, and in the Arab world, that's where the darkness begins and when the unknown starts to surface. This mishmash of action creates a world of chaos in motion. For the untrained eye looking in, this can only be described as crazy behavior. These people are nuts. To be honest, sometimes it is crazy. But for Arabs living this chaos day in, day out, it's not such a definitively good or bad thing. Some resent such roadside behavior, as each and every outing becomes a heavy burden on the soul. While the majority of Arabs consider it as the way it is and how it's always going to be at home, nothing to worry about, to be addressed or rectified. All is a-okay, as long as you use your turn signals, because we are civilized after all. The Arab world is large and vast, and so the chaos I mentioned isn't uniform. There are levels to the madness when it comes to our driving, and these levels are informed by three factors. The first is the quality of the existing road and traffic network, meaning the physical design, maintenance, enforcement, and organization of a country's road system. The second is the general driving mindset of the people, the collective psychological attitude drivers bring to the road and how it shapes traffic functions in practice. And third are the intangible factors, the deeper cultural codes unique to each Arab society that govern how people move, react, and relate behind the wheel. No one country struggles with one single factor alone. Most embody two, while some struggle with all in symphony. I believe groupings of countries that struggle with similar factors can be made, and they'd be Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Libya, Sudan, and Yemen in the three-factor category, while Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, and Bahrain fall under the two-factor category. The sole distinction between these two groups comes in the form of the first factor, the absence of the road infrastructure. One other quick clarification to make here: in the Arabian Gulf, countries who have substantial expat populations, the majority of locals obviously struggle with these factors, whereas expats living there and who come from developed nations don't. Yet those who come from lesser developed nations end up mimicking the behavior of the locals. If we're talking about the first factor, this might be far-fetched to many, but outside the Arabian Peninsula, major urban hubs, and towns across the Arab world, weak road infrastructure is quite prevalent, even in capital cities like Beirut and Cairo. Once you move onto smaller branches of the road network, both quality and quantity quickly begin to diminish. What do I mean? Well, for example, at fairly large intersections, traffic lights can be open-endedly non-operational, even more likely, non-existent. Sidewalks disappear, and the lines between roads and sidewalks that do exist begin to fade. Road becomes pedestrian, and pedestrian domains become vehicularly accessible, even necessary. No lanes, no speed bumps, and signage. You can totally forget about signage. So what do you do in these instances? Your street smarts take over, and you begin a back and forth dialogue with the other drivers around till you achieve what you need to achieve. This first factor of poor infrastructure is fairly easy to imagine and qualify. It's tangible, it's black and white. Outsiders will think this factor to be the most dangerous. In fact, it's the least dangerous of the bunch, as it tells you clearly from the start that officially agreed upon rules and systems don't exist. So don't expect or assume anything in those situations. You must negotiate yourself carefully out of them. And your primary tool in places like Beirut, Cairo, Baghdad, you guessed it, the constant nagging sound of the horns that have been annoying you so far. Let's turn them off for now. I made my point. On a slightly funnier note, instead of labeling who are the worst or best of drivers in the Arab world, I want to present a makeshift, fictional, yet very accurate list of awards. Best horn diplomacy, Lebanon. Most likely to invent a new lane, Egypt. Most existential flashing headlights, Saudi Arabia. Most elegant rule breaking, Morocco. Most likely to turn driving into a class statement, Kuwait. Most confusingly polite while violating physics, Jordan. Please check out our new course on how to navigate Arab identity in today's world, how to define and pinpoint yourself within the various tensions found in the duality of tradition and modernity, the foundations that make us unique, even our contradictions. Unapologetically Arab is a 13-chapter course intent on helping anyone interested in appreciating what it means to be an Arab. Join now by clicking on the link in the video description at either Thinkific or Patreon and begin your empowering journey of Arab discovery. When we get to the second factor, things get a little more, entertaining. Rules exist for all, in theory. But there's a certain elasticity applied to such rules and, of course, dependent on the type of situations. Arab driving is pretty much improvisation under ever-changing conditions. You don't read the road, you read the room. You need to get from point A to point B. It doesn't really matter what you must do to get there, as long as you do get there. It's not your responsibility to do so in the most courteous or socially acceptable method. Again, as long as you get there. The mindset is of total opportunism, where efficiency often outranks etiquette and immediate necessity, overrides this abstract obligation called rules. Part of this comes from a deeper social instinct that runs through much of the Arab world. A low trust in systems as fixed, reliable, or universally fair. Rules may exist, but enforcement may be selective, logic may be arbitrary, and compliance doesn't always guarantee reward. Arabs then internalize a simple lesson. The system isn't necessarily working for you, so you must work around it. This produces a driver who doesn't necessarily assume the road or its rules will protect them. They assume only their own awareness, reflexes, and assertiveness will. If there's a gap, take it. If there's an opening, use it. If waiting politely means losing 10 minutes while everyone else advances, then politeness becomes irrational and unnecessary. How does this manifest on the road? Well, tailgating in the fast lane while being bullied off your lane is normal. A speeding car flashing its headlights from a distance behind you, asserting that its driver is coming through, so get out of the way, is again commonplace. Or flying into roundabouts, kamikaze style, regardless of who's in there, is a normal happening. Parking and obstructing a whole fleet of cars because it's the most efficient solution is normal. And if traffic is at a standstill, then driving onto the sidewalk to advance in road position, even if it's only for a further few cars down the road, is standard operational procedure. This mindset tells these drivers that their priorities matter more because they know their urgency better than anyone else knows theirs. Everyone believes their errand is the most important one, their delay the more justified frustration, their shortcut the more reasonable exception. Multiply that now by thousands of drivers and the road becomes a negotiation between competing personal realities. And there is your chaos. I always say to myself as so many people simultaneously whiz by me, مكتشف الذرة أنت? As if all these drivers were in such a hurry because they've had some eureka moment of invention or ingenuity that necessitated such expediency and recklessness. Now, as common and universal as the second factor is across the Arab world, the third factor is uniquely applied by various regions. Remember, the third factor relates to the societal codes unique to each Arab population. Here, there are two main variations. The first is relative to revolt. Revolting against political authority or in protest of societal oppression. When people protest in the Arab streets against whatever policies or reforms, this is usually deemed unacceptable with sometimes severe consequences. But on the other hand, if they happen to drive around in their cars with reckless regard in an affront to the authorities and put themselves and those in their vicinity in imminent danger, then that is overlooked, as it's considered a lower risk arena. We see this in Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Tunisia, and Algeria. The second variation is much more specific to the Arabian Peninsula. It's when the roads turn into a social stage, a private room within a public domain, cruising as courtship, gez as we call it, flirtation, status display, and a back-and-forth negotiation of how can we get acquainted and can I get your number? All these foreign actions introduced onto the driving experience, not only for those partaking in this vehicular social dance, but also for those within their immediate proximity. Quick acceleration, then sudden deceleration. 2 or 3 cars jockeying to gain the attention of a single or of multiple ladies in a car. Some ladies magnify this dance with giggles and glances, while others never take their eyes off the road in front of them, frightened for their safety and lives. I'm not sure whether dance is the right word or not, maybe hunt, maybe both. For the general population, those outside this flirtatious exercise, all this activity is presenting new threats on the road that have no traffic logic to them. Why would a car suddenly slow down to a crawl in the middle of a high-speed open road? It's simply crazy. So back to my initial thought on how all this roadside behavior aggregates towards how Arabs are perceived as societies. One shocking fact crucial here is that most, if not all, Arab drivers who have driven cars internationally in other non-Arab nations, those who are typically the lions of the Arabian roads, become kittens when driving in places like Europe. What this clearly says is that we definitely don't respect our institutions, like the police. Maybe it's because those Arab institutions don't respect themselves. It also suggests something more concerning, that we as Arabs individually, once the directness of face-to-face interaction is removed, we disrespect each other. A car becomes a mask to hide behind, to be rude, to lack etiquette, and to be selfish, not kind, generous, and understanding. And if this is true, that the way we drive reflects the way we live, then all I can say is that we're in trouble.